Can Oscar Piastri back up his Chinese Grand Prix win, or Lando Norris extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship? That's all ahead of us at this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. I'm Matt Koch from Speed Cafe, looking forward to the third round of the 2025 Formula One season, with thanks to Ford F-150. There's lots to look at in Formula One this weekend. We've got the story that is McLaren. Will Liam Lawson succeed at RB? Will Yuki Tsunoda succeed? Jack Doohan's sitting out free practice one. There's lots and lots to keep us interested as we head to one of the greatest circuits in all of world motorsport. At the top end of town, McLaren is in a really strong position and goes into this race as favourites. Lando Norris won in Australia and he was in the points again in China. Oscar Piastri dominated in China and looks a really good bet to build on that going into this weekend's event. He's done well in Suzuka before. He was on the podium there for the first time in his career back in 2023. And the McLaren on paper should really suit the Suzuka circuit. It's gone well there in recent years with its mixture of medium and high-speed corners. It's really only the hairpin and the chicane, the triangle chicane at the end of the lap that should pose any problems. The question is, can it be challenged? It's not will the McLaren be fast, it's can it be challenged? And that's, well, unknown, because we've seen Ferraris had speed, Mercedes has had speed. Max Verstappen has made the Red Bull work at times as well. So it will remain to be seen what happens through practice and who can build into the weekend the best. It's a traditional format race weekend this time around. So 3 hours of practice before qualifying on Saturday afternoon and then the race on Sunday. Oscar Piastri has made a bit of his trademark to build into a weekend. And if you can do that nicely this time around, you'd think the high demand Suzuka circuit should play nicely to his cool, calm and collected mentality. Lando Norris is a little bit more hot and cold, very, very fast, arguably one of the fastest, if not the fastest driver in Formula One at the moment. But when he's having an off weekend like he did in China, he's a little way behind Oscar. Oscar's just a little bit more consistent at this point, but perhaps without the outright speed. That's the top end of the grid. Let's take a step back and look at Red Bull, because I've got a new driver lineup this weekend. I've got Max Verstappen joined by a brand new teammate in Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda got promoted over Liam Lawson, who had a really tough time of it in the opening 2 rounds, and it's a huge ask for Tsunoda. He's on home soil in front of a home crowd who they're not putting pressure on him. He did a preview event in the days leading up to the Japanese Grand Prix that he said that the crowd's been really respectful. They're not putting pressure on me, but put pressure on me, expect me to succeed, challenge me to do better. His challenge this weekend really is going to be Q3. He's got to get through the final stage of qualifying. He's got to score points. That's what Red Bull wants from its second driver. And if Yuki Tsunoda can't do that, it begins to raise some awkward questions that Liam Lawson couldn't answer. Liam, meanwhile, his job's a little bit different this weekend. He's in the Racing Bulls alongside Isaac Hadjar. We know that car is compliant. It's not a bad machine. It's not perhaps as good as the Red Bull is, but the Racing Bulls car isn't a terrible car, and it's certainly capable of scoring points if it's driven properly, and that really has to be Liam Lawson's target. He'll be looking at probably 9th or 10th at best, let's be honest, but he's in that mix with the midfield cars. He needs to be ahead of Isaac Hadjar throughout the weekend for this to be a success in Red Bull and Racing Bulls' eyes. Liam does have a little bit more experience than the Frenchman. He's only in his 3rd Grand Prix this weekend. And at Alpine, Jack Doohan, the other Australian, he'll sit out free practice one in favour of Ryo Hirakawa. The Japanese driver, who's reserve driver for the squad, is getting free practice one. That's probably related to the agreement to get him in as a reserve driver. It's a Japanese driver after all, has links to Toyota in the World Endurance Championship. So that makes a bit of sense. Jack's the one who's having to make space, and it sort of makes sense and it doesn't in many respects, because Jack, in just his 4th Grand Prix, had one at the end of 2024 and the 2 so far this year. So this is his 4th Grand Prix, needs seat time. He needs time at the wheel around Suzuka, which is a demanding, punishing circuit if you get it wrong. It's very narrow, there's grass verges, so it will punish you if you get it wrong. He needs seat time, but he's not getting it. He's losing an hour because of Hirakawa, and that sort of makes sense as well, because if you're going to sacrifice one of your cars this early in the year, it sort of makes sense to leave the more experienced driver in, because he can give the team and the engineers a better steer on setup direction and get those fundamentals down for Jack to then build on when he does get into the car on Friday afternoon. He'll do free practice 2, and then Saturday morning he'll do free practice 3 quali and the race. So not an ideal build up, but not a terrible build up by any stretch. Jack has lots of hours in the simulator. He's driven plenty of F1 machines as well. He won't necessarily feel that too much. It's not ideal, but he'll survive. And that really is the big talking points as far as us Australians go. Elsewhere, look out for Carlos Sainz. He really needs a big result. He's had a torrid start to the year. The Williams looks handy, GT, so look for them as well. And there's a couple of different liveries. Red Bull has an all-white design in celebration of Honda's 60 years in Formula One, with Richie Ginther winning way back in the 60s for Honda. They're celebrating that car with a white Red Bull, not to be confused with the white Racing Bull, so it's going to be a little bit confusing, at least for us watching on. But do make sure you stick around on Speed Cafe for all the news, plenty of supercars action as well. There's Australian GT or Speed Series happening over the weekend as well, so there's going to be plenty happening to keep you entertained. So make sure you head to speedcafe.com.